Hi, and welcome to Random Rogers Big Picture for the week of November 9th. Talk about one thing on the agenda, sort of a changing in sentiment that I think may be occurring that is probably worth exploring. We'll find out if it was worth exploring at the end of the video, I suppose. Had an interesting comment left on the blog, I think it was Thursday night. But basically, the reader expressed some frustration with all of the stuff that he's been told from brokerage firms about asset allocation and staying in for the long haul and all of that stuff. And, just a general sense of frustration. He described it as the stock market as being a Ponzi scheme of all things. This is kind of interesting. I thought about that and figured at that point that's what I would make the video about. And then Friday morning I stumbled across something by Frederick Ruffey, who kind of articulated it, the exact same thing in a different way. This reader, in reading his email the way I read it, there was no fear or panic in his comment, but more a sense of, to use Ruffey's words, disinterest, discouraged, and I don't think he used this word, but it probably fits, despondent. He basically was throwing in the towel on the stock market. At least, he is expressing that type of sentiment in the comment. I don't know if he's actually going to do that or not, but you get the point. That sort of, giving up is kind of a moving beyond panic and fear into, a different emotion set of just giving up. It doesn't work, forget it. Throwing in the towel, that sort of thing. And it's an interesting dynamic. It is a natural thing that occurs. That very famous from, was it 1981? Death of Equities cover on Business Week. I don't know if that was fear and panic, disinterest, or a bridge between the two, but that is what happens as a bear market cycles through. Maybe it needs to, a bear market needs to be a little scarier than before, and then maybe the next one won't be so bad. This one really looks like it's turning out to be a very bad one, and which was contrary to what I thought would be the case. So maybe the next time maybe will be not as bad, but what we're dealing with right here, right now, it's down a lot. It looks like it's going to stay down for a while. I don't think it's going down much further, but I think it's going to stay down for a while. And it will wear people out. They will throw in the towel, and eventually, there's no way to quantify such a thing, but eventually people will give up, and that's probably exactly when the market will turn and the next bull market will start. No way to know if that takes 6 months to process through, if it's going to process through this week or any other time frame. But that is likely to happen. It is, and it's just kind of a fascinating thing to watch if you can detach and observe it, kind of third party, which I think I'm able to do. And I think that comes through in the writing, is kind of my emotional detachment. Hopefully you're developing your own emotional detachment toward this sort of thing. I worded something probably, I don't know if insensitively is the best way or just poorly or whatever, but I talked about not sweating these moves, and someone left a comment saying that he was down 100,000, and he sweats it, but he doesn't act on it. He worded it better than I could have worded it, but it is still the same type of thing. If this guy's not acting on whatever it is he's feeling, then he's winning the battle. It may be a tough battle, but he is winning it, and that will serve him well in the long run. I'm making an assumption that this fellow had some sort of exit strategy where he lightened up. If he didn't, then obviously that makes this much, much tougher. But I don't think there's been a whole lot of attention paid to this notion of moving from fear and panic into despondency, at least not enough of it. Okay, well, we've got a neighbor who insists on walking by. We live in the woods, and there's all sorts of different paths you can go, and for some reason, this neighbor walks her dogs right by our house. The dogs have a bad energy. or maybe it's the lady who walking the dogs who doesn't have a good energy, and that's what happens. Anyway, I don't think there's enough paid to this sort of emotion, and it's crucial. This is really what the bottom is about. A bell doesn't ring. There isn't, down 11% today, that's the bottom. It's very tough to rely on that. Sometimes bear markets do end loudly. This one doesn't feel like it's going to. We'll see what happens. That'll either prove out right or wrong. But hopefully you recognize this emotion that I'm talking about, or despondency, in yourself, and you don't succumb to that. Just as succumbing to fear and panic is the wrong thing to do. Succumbing to the stock market is rigged, there's no winning, yada yada. You need to be proactive with kind of reducing exposure and increasing exposure. I've made that point abundantly clear, but you can't give up on it. And hopefully you're not. Hopefully you've protected yourself a little bit. Hopefully you're thinking a little bit, even if you have done nothing to re-equitize. Hopefully you're beginning to think, well, at what point should I? Even if you're only at that step, you're making a lot of progress, I think. All right, that's about it. Hopefully the dogs weren't too distracting. Have a great weekend.